Hey everyone, it's Kyle from Cool Collectibles back again for another review. This time it's the Hot Toys MMS470 Black Panther from the Black Panther movie, not Civil War. And I do have the figure off to the side here. I'll give you guys a closer look in a second, but I wanted to just quickly go through the accessories that come with the set, and there are a few things that are quite annoying with the set and disappointing, starting with this backdrop and diorama piece. Now, I guess at this price range, I was expecting Hot Toys to bring the quality with that, but this piece at the back here is just a cardboard that you sort of have to sort of fold away and put these pieces on the sides, so that's rather disappointing, to be honest. So there's nothing too special about that backdrop. Now these things on the side are the pieces for the light up feature for the UV lights. Now the feature itself, which I'll show a bit later, works quite well, but all of this is just very light foam, almost like packing foam, and it's just wrapped in this cardboard. Now it looked nice in the packaging. When I pulled it out, I was actually expecting it to be plastic. I mean, God, they could have just used the clamshell type plastic and it would have been better quality than this, I think. But it's quite disappointing that the lights here are sort of embedded inside there, and it's just all sort of cardboard plastic. So at this sort of price range, I was expecting quite a bit more from Hot Toys. But I'll show you guys a bit more of that diorama set in a second. The other accessory that is quite disappointing is this head sculpt. Now the prototype, people are rightly so, comparing it against the prototype. People have said that the hairline is different. Well, that's not true. I mean, looking back at the prototype photos, the widow's peak here was on the prototype. It wasn't on one of the pictures that JC Hong, the painter, showed on his Instagram, but that again was a different prototype, and this final production version has that widow's peak. The hair itself is pretty good. I don't have any issues with that. Of course, the biggest issue is the likeness itself. Now, the prototype definitely had a better likeness to Chadwick Boseman. What they've done to the tweaks to this head sculpt actually make it look more like Idris Elba, Heimdall, than Black Panther. Now, I think the biggest tweak that they messed with is definitely the eyes and the width of them. They've brought the eyes too close together. If you look and compare it against the prototype that had the better likeness, the eyes were set further apart, just like they should be. So I think that was probably the one major tweak that they did that really sets this head sculpt off. The paint application, as always with Hot Toys, it's second to none, so there's no issues with the skin texture, the paint application, the glassiness in the eyes, even the beard there is and the moustache is very nicely done. It's just damn, I don't know why they tweaked those eyes. I tend to like using these unmasked head sculpts in my display, and having them either holding their mask or helmet and so on. So it is a bit disappointing that this isn't really up to their usual high standard. But I'll give you guys a closer look at the masked head sculpt in a second. The other accessories, it comes with this swap out eyes. I'm not going to bother showing you that, but you pretty much use this tool to grab the internal part of the mask sculpt, very much like not the Justice League, the Batman versus Superman Batman figure that had similar sort of swap out eyes. I don't think they look particularly good with the mask, so I'll definitely won't be using that. It comes with the usual slew of hands, and these are, as always, sculpted really, really nicely. I love the detail in the fingertips, the detailing in the paint application with the shiny parts and the sort of matte parts. Very nicely done. These are the sort of semi-clawed, and these are the full sort of battle sharpened versions. And I think you get the two fists on the figure by default, and then you get this hand that holds his spear. which again is a very nice accessory. I do wish Hot Toys would just get with the party and actually make these out of metal. I can't remember the last time they made a metal sword or spear or shield or anything like that, apart from maybe Captain America's shield. But all their recent weapons that I've seen are all plastic, and when the likes of Asmus and In Flames Toys and so on can make really delicate and intricate metal weapons like this, then I think Hot Toys in this price range should be doing the same. I'll just quickly show you the stand. So it comes with the usual hexagonal base there. The art print is pretty nice. And then of course you've got the crotch grabber that you can put in there. He does stand pretty well on its own, so I haven't used it. And then you've got this black plastic piece. Now this is the sort of clamshell type. They could have used that, I guess, and painted the sides or something, or printed on them. But overall, this whole sort of get-up is pretty cheap feeling, to be honest. There is a switch at the back to turn on the UV lights that give the purple highlights on the suit, which I'll show in a second. I've put the 3 AAA batteries in there that you need, or you can hook up this USB power source, which I probably won't bother trying, and I don't have a computer or a power source close to my display anyway, so I probably will be boxing this all up and putting it in the box anyway. But enough about the accessories, I'll get on to the figure. Alright, so here is the figure, and the details on this thing are pretty awesome, I have to say. It's my first Black Panther figure. I never got the Civil War version. I do have to say I think I prefer the Civil War helmet or mask. This one certainly looks more Panther-like, but probably it just doesn't look as aggressive as the original. But the details that Hot Toys have put into it, with all of that patterning, really is very nicely done. People have complained about a gap at the back of the head. Mine doesn't seem to have too much of a problem. I guess the range of motion in that head, in the neck, from what I can find, isn't too great. But for the most part, I think it's hidden well enough for my amount of posing anyway. So, as I was saying before, the eyes, it comes default with these closed up eyes, which I prefer. The ones with the pupils just looks a little bit weird. I can't even remember which scene he had those in, to be honest, but I much prefer this, and so I'll be leaving it with that head sculpt on. The suit itself is like it's a full body suit. I don't know how they sew these things on, similar to the Spider-Man figures and so on. And this is very body hugging. It's almost like I guess the undersuit here, it's all molded, and so all of his musculature is molded on the outside. I think it's not sort of the suit over the body that is molded like this, which I think is a little bit different to the way the Superman figures used to be. I think that more had the underlying body and the suit directly over the top. So I think this one's a little bit different, but just the patterning on this suit is really, really nicely done. I don't know what technology Hot Toys uses, but there's no other company out there that does suits like this, to this level of quality and detail. I am a little bit worried about all of these teeth and how they've glued them on, and whether or not moving the suit around is going to make those start to peel up, which would be a real shame and a pain in the ass to actually stick back down. So for this particular figure, I'm not going to be moving this too much at all. I'm going to try to find at least some sort of semblance of a natural museum pose. I was hoping to have him holding the helmet in one under his arm, and then having the unmasked head sculpt, but now I'll probably have him holding his spear in some sort of at least a semi-neutral battle-ready pose. The legs here, I do love the articulation in the toe bit here. You just sort of flex it and sort of separates there, which is quite nicely done. I am a little bit worried about the bunching up in the suit on these edges here. I might see if I can sort of move the suit. The suit does move against the body, so there is a bit of play in the suit, but overall I'm not sure if there's anything much that anyone can do about the bunching there. Hopefully it doesn't start cracking over time. The thing about moving these things and those joints, particularly the knee joints and so on, I really hate moving those, especially when I straighten it out again, just in case the suit catches inside the joint. I've seen cases where the suit catches in and it ends up tearing the suit, which is probably the last thing you want to do with a figure like this. Articulation wise, I probably won't be showing you too much. It's got all the usual joints. I do love the way John Carlos, I don't know if you guys are familiar with his channel, but I love the way he explained how he didn't want to move his figure in his review, whereas there are other reviewers who, I can't remember what the term he used was, some hilarious term, so maybe check out his video to see how he explained it. But similarly, I won't be moving too much, but you can get him into a lot of fairly dynamic poses for photos and so on. If you look at the Hot Toys official blogger photos, you'll see plenty of examples of awesome photos and poses. Now, just on that note on the suit and the way it's sewed and so on, you'll note, similar to the Spider-Man figures, because it has to be sewn closed, you'll see that one side of the suit, usually the left, or yeah, I think it's usually the left, is fairly perfectly sewn, because that's what comes out of the sewing machine. And then on the other side, you'll see that it's a human that sews it together, and it's not as neat. But mine looks pretty good, to be honest, so I'm not going to complain too much about that at all. But all the little details, all the patterning is really, really nice, and you really will see the details come to the fore when you use that UV light up feature. So I might just grab that stand now and give you guys a look at that. Alright, so I've turned off the side lamps here, and I have the UV lights turned on, and as you can see, this light up effect is pretty bloody awesome, I have to say. It's a lot more dramatic than I thought it was going to be, and even on the head sculpt here, I just love the way you can see all the details in the patterning. As you rotate the figure around, all those triangles and lines. I actually didn't even realize that it sort of brings out all of these Wakandan characters, like you know, the Chinese characters and so on. It's a really dramatic effect. I love the way they've done that. Even on the back here, you get all of that patterning effect. If I get my ridiculous thumb out the way, it is just a pretty awesome effect. So Hot Toys really have done a great job on that front. On the arms, on the forearms there, you see all that patterning. So I think it's a shame I don't have this hooked up to a power source that is convenient, that I can sort of turn it on and off when people come over and show them this effect, because it is pretty neat. I do have the 3 AAA batteries in there. I'll be taking them out, but so it's a shame that you know, you can't really have that effect in natural light. But other than that, I am pretty happy with this figure. It's a shame that the base here is just cardboard and foam, and I guess it is a bit disappointing with that Chadwick Boseman head sculpt looking a bit more like Idris Elba. But apart from that, the figure itself, the suit, and the overall details is right up there with the usual Hot Toy standards. So hopefully you like that quick look at this Black Panther figure. Hopefully you can click that like and subscribe button. I do have the Hot Toys Episode 3 Obi-Wan Kenobi figure coming up tomorrow, hopefully. So hopefully you can stick around for that. But other than that, thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers. Bye.